All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Welcome to the J podcast. I am your host, Jahenns Manigat, aka 12. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network. This is that time of the year that you really want to be paying attention to the stuff that we've got going on. It is tournament time, and there's no better duo to introduce tournament time with than two guys who low key have had some incredible battles against each other in the old gym back in the day. Of course, I'm talking about Matthew Dorwart, friend of the show, who's been here before, and Doug McDermott, the San Antonio Spur, who's also been in the J with me before virtually. Boys, how you guys doing?
Doing well. I like to think I won some of those battles against Doug, but we all know that's not true.
I was present. You won a couple, maybe not the majority, but you won a couple.
Man,
Doug, how have you been?
if Derek was on here, that'd be a true statement. Because I got the best of him. But I've been good. I can't complain. It's always good seeing you guys.
Derek Sebastian always got you on the walkthrough, so he's undefeated in the game day backdoor cuts when everyone's going 60% and he's going 110. So that's all. I'm just doing that, Derek, to defend your right for real, since you're not here to defend you.
There's
All
no
right,
chance
boys,
to listen to this either.
let's get into it real quick because I know we have a little bit of limited time. Again, I appreciate you guys taking some time out to step into the gym with me virtually once again. As I said in the open, it's tournament time. All the stuff from the past is behind us. We're going to do a little bit of a recap, a quick recap of the Big East tournament that we just saw last week. The Jays beat Villanova in the quarterfinals, but fall to Xavier in the semis. All those teams made it to the tournament. Marquette ends up winning the Big East tournament championship as well as the regular season. So congrats to them and their program. Shaka Spur did a wonderful job for them throughout this year. And now it's tournament time. Jays end up with a 6 seed in this year's tournament, which I want to ask you guys. It's been such an up and down roller coaster type season. Matt, I want you to answer first. How do we feel about being a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament? Like, is that too high? Is that too low? Is it just right? What's your take on it?
I think that's just about right. Obviously at the beginning of the year, we all had high hopes for getting a better seed, but I think with the kind of the stumbles we had throughout the year, I think 6 is pretty reasonable. We had a tough schedule, but I think we will bounce back and be able to gain that 6 seed. That's pretty great. A good testament to the team's resiliency.
That's one of the things that Coach Mack said in the presser yesterday. That it's kind of a testament to how strong the Big East was that they're still able to get a 6 seed. He mentioned about going down that road with the team, going through a 6-game losing streak, and like what you just said, like how resilient that they were throughout it all. And they were just kind of put in a tough situation. You got Kalki being sick. You got some injuries here and there that really affected the team. Doug, what's your take on it? 6 seed, too high, too low, or just right?
I think it's just right, because as we said, with the ups and downs they went through, from watching them in Maui to where we're at now, I would have taken a 6 seed all day. I think there were times throughout the season where I was worried if we were even going to get in. So to be a 6 seed, to show that resiliency, knowing that we can really play with anyone in the country, I think it's a great seed, especially in Denver, where we're going to travel super well.
So I kind of agree with you there too, because like there was a point in the season where we're just like, damn, like are we even getting in, right? I and that's what kind of makes me feel like a 6 seed is a little high when I think about like in hindsight where my mindset was at that time. But obviously, like the Jays have done a wonderful job of creeping back into the top 25, which is another thing that was very difficult to do after taking such a slide in the middle of the season. That's another thing that Coach Mack mentioned. He's like, I'm not sure if I've ever seen a situation like that where a highly ranked team in the top 10 to start the season takes like a big bump in the middle of it and then are able to find their way back to the top 25 at the end of the season. So when you think about it from that perspective, I'm also of the opinion that it was just right. Obviously, being the most biased Creighton podcast that I'm a host of, I kind of wish we were a 5th seed, but I'm also scared of that 5-12 line that we've all, as NCAA tournament fans, have witnessed all these upsets throughout the year. So I'm happy that we're a 6th seed. It's a little bit more of a traditional feel. I definitely would not want to have been that 5-12 line. I do definitely want to go back a little bit about and talk about the Big East tournament just a little bit. How do we feel about the Jays performance there? That Villanova team was a team that I was very scared of, but we managed to beat them pretty handily. At Madison Square. Doug, Talk to me about, that Villanova game, being able to kind of get over a team that was really tough and that was really playing the right way down the stretch.
Yeah, that was a huge one. I thought it showed a lot of our team, especially with how hard Villanova was playing, and they needed to win that tournament to get into NCAA. So we knew we'd get
Mhm.
their best shot, and we just came out super hungry, and we matched everything. We got off to a hot start and just never really looked back. So super proud of the team for that one. That's always a tough program to play against, especially when they're all healthy like they were. So I think playing in that type of game at the Garden against a really good physical team will just get us ready for the tournament. I mean, we all know what happened against Xavier, but I think you kind of just flush that one down the toilet, and it's a new season. I think if anything, it'll wake us up a little and get us back locked in.
Matthew, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's obviously as a fan, you want to see them do. You never want to see your like last game before the tournament be a kind of a showing like it was against Xavier.
Mhm.
But I think probably overall, not having to play another game, get another day of rest, it might pay dividends. I just wish they would have had a little better showing against Xavier.
Mhm.
But put a lot of effort in. Villanova was playing really hot, and we really pretty much manhandled them the whole game. So that's that. I think we could take that with us, and hopefully that gives us some momentum.
The best thing about, like Doug said, this is a whole new season. You kind of flush it, kind of forget about that bad moment against Xavier, and you're able to kind of reset. They have an entire week to prep for an NC State team that they're going to face in the first round. Coach Mack mentioned again in that press conference that they didn't have obviously a chance to watch a lot of ACC basketball. That when you're in the middle of the season, you're kind of focused on who's next, what do we have to do to play against them. But now that they have an idea of who they're going to play, they're definitely going to be in the film room, studying their habits and stuff, and they're able to reset and just kind of focus. But at the same time, they have a couple of days here where they can really work on themselves. Man, I'm going to ask you first, what are some of the things, if you're in that coaching staff, if you're in the locker room with those guys, what's one of the things that you're like, guys, we really have to buckle down at this aspect of our game if we really want to make a deep push in this tournament?
Honestly, what I think they need to do is just sit in the ice bath for like 4 days. The starters need to just not do much, and I think that's the coaching staff does a good job of shutting people down towards the end of the year to not be super physical in practice. I think they'll have some practices where maybe get after it a little bit. But they have to be careful since the starters play such heavy minutes to just manage people's bodies and stuff. But I think a lot of it's not necessarily. I don't think it's a lot of stuff practice to me. I think it's a lot of, the games we've lost. Sometimes we haven't looked to engage on defense or engage on offense, just kind of getting guys to have the right mindset. And I think the coaching staff will be ready for that.
Yeah, it is still a pretty young team. Like we see all the talent on that team, but they're starting three sophomores. Kalki's a junior. Baylor Sharman obviously has a ton of experience from being a Jackrabbit previously. But yeah, it's all about kind of getting the right mindset, especially at this time of the year. I totally agree with you there, Doug. What's kind of the thing that you would tell the team, if you're on the coaching staff, which I mean your father is, I'm sure you guys have had conversations about it, but what's something that you would tell the team if you're in that room and you have their ear and you want to give this a little something about what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, I was already talking to my dad last night about playing in the altitude. I told him to make sure they're pre-hydrating. I'm sure Doc knows best, but just electrolytes getting right before you even get there, and just getting ready for what that's going to be, and just knowing that every team there has to deal with the same thing. But I think it's a very important week, getting our rest, watching film. I think the most important part when we get there is having a great practice to get the lungs ready for the game and getting the legs ready. So it's a big week. I'm sure they're just locking in, watching a lot of those ACC games. I know they lost their last game pretty big against Clemson in the tournament. So I'm sure they're have the same mindset as us. Both teams are pissed off with the way their, conference tournaments ended. So they're both going to be hungry. So I think just getting the guys' mind in the right spot headed to Denver is huge.
You said something, Doug, that I kind of want to dig into a little bit more. Obviously, you get a chance to go out to Denver a couple times a year with your NBA schedule. But do you remember our freshman year in our exhibition game playing against Boulder in the Pepsi Center in their auxiliary gym or whatever, their practice facility? I remember like 18 years old, best shape of my life, but still like wheezing because of the altitude change and, getting there the night before, not having a lot of time to adjust to it. So I think that's a really good point that you brought up there. Like, you mentioned being hydrated and all that stuff, but what are some other things that guys can do in that situation where they're going up into altitude in a situation that they're not really too familiar with?
To start the game. Guys have to run in suicides all day at the old gym. But I think it's huge. I know they're probably going to get out there a few days before. I think it's very important to have one really hard practice out there to emulate a game. I mean, nothing like physical or live, but just to get the lungs going. I think it's important, going into that game, because you're going to see a lot of guys huffing and puffing out there, and it's like the first few minutes of the game, and then it usually gets better after that. But it's definitely a tough place to play. But I'm sure Jeremy and our Ben and all of them are doing the right things to get the guys ready.
Tough place to play because of altitude for sure. Then there's this guy named Jokic who's supposed to be 3-time MVP low key that's shooting up over there too. So I can only imagine what that scouting report is like for you guys when you have to go.
Hey, we beat them. We beat them the other night, Jay. So we got.
I know. I did see that though. Yeah.
Not the altitude.
But again, I'm sure Denver's pretty pissed off about that. Yeah, for sure. NC State finished 6th in the ACC. They're led in scoring by Smith and Joyner, both averaging 17 points a game, both playing over 33 minutes a game. They kind of have the same situation like Creighton, where their starters play heavy minutes, 30 minutes plus. They do have a better bench contribution than we do. Dorwart, this question is going to be for you. Starting 5 versus starting 5, we're both anticipating that teams are going to be playing their starters 30 plus minutes a game. What gives you the opinion that Creighton is going to have an advantage against another starting 5 that has high caliber, high quality, who are able to put points on the board? What gives us the comfort knowing that the J starting 5 is going to be able to outperform NC State's?
I'd say our balance. I mean, it was really on display against Villanova. Everybody scored. I mean, our starters all average over 11 points a game. But I think 3 people had over 17 against Villanova. So it's our balance. I know NC State really relies heavily on those guards who kind of have the ultimate green light. I know I watched the game against North Carolina, and they were just pulling from anywhere. Those are kind of things. I think we have the good inside outside balance that could definitely, we don't just rely on 2 guys, which I think could be helpful.
Same question. Yeah, same question to you, Doug. 5-on-5, our starting 5 versus theirs is going to be the majority of the game. What gives you confidence that the Jays will be able to outperform their starting 5?
I think Kalkbrenner's huge, obviously. When they have 2 guards like that are trying to pull from anywhere, like Matt said, I think the biggest key is running them off the line and funneling them to our 7-footer to make tough floaters. If they're going to make a bunch of mid-range floaters and beat us that way, you got to give them credit. But I think that's the key. I mean, we got 2 great defenders in Trey and Ryan who will, take those guys on. And I think that's going to be a huge point of emphasis is, trying to run them off the line into our 7-footer. But yeah, I was looking at the stats. Every game was either Smith or was it Joyner or Pointer?
Joyner, yeah.
Joyner. Every game they had 26, 16, 18, 27. So that's going to be a challenge, but I think our guys will be ready.
There's definitely going to be a challenge. You mentioned R2, who, there's going to be his first time playing in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, he hurt his wrist last year at that St. John's road game and wasn't able to participate for the rest of the year. Trey Alexander kind of mentioned, though, however, that even though they're young, they got a ton of experience. I already mentioned, Baylor's experience. Farabello had some experience being a Horned Frogs prior to coming to the Hilltop this year. You got Trey Alexander, who was playing some of his best basketball down the stretch last year. So was Arthur Kaluma. So, and obviously Kalkbrenner, who's low-key, he was on a 316 team, right? As a freshman, he played last year in the NCAA tournament. This is his 3rd time, getting through it. We do have some experience, even though the team is young. My question to you, Matt, I'm asking you first. What does that mean for the Jays? That experience of having so many guys, and I failed to mention Sharif, who's been a part of NCAA tournament teams too. What does that experience do for the Jays as far as their hopes of advancing when the going is going to get tough here?
I mean, you guys will be able to probably answer this better than I can with experience on the court. But being in the NCAA tournament, it's kind of an experience like any other, even though I was just on the bench for it. It was still a pretty amazing experience. and it just felt different. I don't know if you've been like a college basketball fan or even a basketball fan, all you're like you just know like everyone knows the NCAA tournament. So being in the NCAA tournament, it just the games felt different. I don't really know how to describe it, but having guys who have experience with that, then they can maybe won't be quite as amped up to start the game, keep things a little calmer, be able to keep a steady hand a little bit better. Just because those games, I don't know, the adrenaline seems like it flows a lot more.
Yeah, Doug, I definitely want to, ask you the same question, but I also want to ask, like, you and I played a ton of minutes for those NCAA tournament appearances that we've had. We were never able to make it past the first weekend, but did you feel like after doing it sophomore year, going into junior year, like what was your feeling of like, okay, like we've been here before, here are things that we need to do to advance. Like, did you feel differently in that game, or were you still? Because I was still like, my heart was still pounding like a mother, like before that tip off. So I'm wondering. I never asked you this. How did you feel going into that second and third year in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure amped up a little because we showed that we've been there before. Those are definitely games where you get jitters, regardless of how many times you've been there. I remember being super nervous out there to start, and once you see the first one or two go in, you're relieved and you're ready to play. But I think that's a big thing, and I think that's something that plays to our advantage. Since leaving the Valley, we get to play at the Garden, before the tournament, and I think nothing prepares you more for the stage than the Garden. If you can perform there and in front of all your fans on the national stage, I think it just gets you ready to go to Denver, where it's not the Garden, it's not that atmosphere, but it's on the biggest stage. So I think that plays into our hands pretty well. And I think the guys will be ready, once it's tipped off. But we got to get used to the Wilson balls. Those are different. I'm sure they
Yeah.
I'm sure they got them in practice and they're ready to go. But that was definitely an adjustment in college, playing with all those different balls.
Well, yeah, especially like you kind of get used to it on the road and stuff like that, right? When you're in Nike school, you play with your Nike basketballs. When you're in Adidas school, you play with those basketballs. When you're Under Armour school, you go on the road, you play against, or you play with an Under Armour basketball. But all of a sudden, you get to the tournament, and it's a standard Wilson that everybody uses. So that's an adjustment not only for us, for every team as well. For most teams, I would say there's some teams out there who are using the Wilsons. But yeah, that's definitely another,
Drake. I think Drake used them, right?
In the Valley, that's a
There
good
was a
question.
few in our conference.
I remember Wichita State used the Rock, and I never liked that basketball. Like, I never shot well at Wichita State.
The Under Armour Southern Illinois one was tough.
Yeah. Oh, I was stroking it with the Under Armour.
Yeah.
So was Rock. So was Farini.
Yeah. We definitely, before I let you guys go, we're a little crunch on time today, but I can't help but mention how wild of a year this has been in collegiate basketball. Like, let's be honest, boys, this is about as wide open as college basketball has been. Like, the top 25 has been basically cards being shuffled every week. When you flip the cards, you don't know who's going to be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We were definitely amongst one of those cards that was shuffled in and out of the top 25 every week. First of all, Matthew, I want to ask you, why do you think that is? And that also means that the NCAA tournament is as wide open of a field as it's ever been before. So first of all, why do you think that is? And what gives Jays fans hope that Creighton could be that team that's going to pull through and maybe make a Final Four run, when I don't feel a lot of people in the nation kind of give us that much love, I guess, for being a Final Four team.
What's kind of funny is I was reading something earlier today. Creighton actually has, I think, like the 13th best odds to win it all, which is kind of nuts when you wouldn't really think about it being a 6 seed. But it just kind of goes to show you that I
saw a lot of people have like UConn in their Final Four just based off of like KenPom and stuff like that. So yeah, analytics will definitely like change your idea of which team should be favored in some situations.
And I think it kind of goes to show each year. I feel like there's always, not always, but the years where there's like a dominant player, or a dominant couple players, then it seems like those teams, other than really Edey, it doesn't seem like to me there's a really like dominant college basketball player. Like Houston has a bunch of guys, Kansas kind of a few guys. Like it's more teams. So I think that maybe leads you to maybe a little bit more parity when you don't have a guy you can just give the ball to and they could score. So I think that's been the change in college basketball this year, because there hasn't been a team that's just been completely dominant. And that gives us a chance, because at the beginning of the year, we obviously favored early on in the year, had our little struggles, kind of took our lumps in the Big East, but I think we are a team that it proved, in Maui, we could beat it. We can be on the court with anybody. In Texas, we can be on the court with anybody. And a lot of those teams, Arizona is a top 2 seed, Texas is a 2 seed. So all the teams we lost to close, Marquette, Xavier, all these teams we've proven we can play with, all right there. So I think that gives us some hope that really, even though we're a 6 seed, I think that we've shown that we could be on the court with anybody. And the fact that there's no truly dominant team, all it takes is some shots to go in, get some stops, and we can make a run.
Doug, same question. With the wide open field, what gives us hope that we can make a Final Four type run?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing with who we played, our schedule. We didn't have a really bad loss all year. And we had a chance to win at Texas, like Matt said, with shooting like 13% from 3. We were still right there. Still right there with Arizona, still beat Xavier. I can't get fined by college basketball refs, so we probably could have beat Marquette too. But I think
say it with your chest, Doug.
Maybe they can. I don't know. But I don't care. But we show that we can play with anyone this year. And I know that we're motivated because we had our ups and downs this year, and I know the talent we have on this team. We had a lot of guys that are going to be playing at the next level, and I just know that they're ready to show out, and prove a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, I'm with you guys there for sure. There's a lot of guys on the team who love the bright lights too. Like, I'll definitely say that, having a chance to practice and play against these guys in the summertime, anytime it got down to like game point, like Kaluma's eyes lit up, Shireman's eyes lit up, like those guys are ready to get after it. Like, that's just kind of innate in them. They had a rough regular season, and sometimes like that, even though I'm sure they don't want to admit it, that kind of, dwells on you a little bit, and it kind of plays with your psyche. But here's a chance, like Doug said, to flush it, to reset, to kind of get back into what they do best, which is play Creighton basketball at a high pace, play well defensively, especially these past couple of years with the ascension of Kalki being such a dominant force down low. And, what they say about basketball is true. Defense travels. If you're able to get enough stops, like even if you might not have the best shooting game, like Doug, you were at that Texas game and you mentioned how bad their percentages were, still had a chance to tie it down the stretch, like truth be told. So defense is going to travel. That's going to be the Jays' best calling card to be productive in this tournament. And defense does win championships. So we'll see how far the Jays' defense and also obviously their tournament experience will take them. Fellas, before I let you guys go, any last words? Matthew, I feel like you're chomping at the bit to say something.
Well, I got me thinking that we have a chance here if we get past NC State to exercise some demons, to get past some PTSD for all Creighton fans, especially you two guys, get past Baylor. It would be nice to get to the Sweet 16. Without looking too far ahead, but that would be a nice like collective monkey off the back for all Creighton fans.
I definitely didn't want to mention it. When I saw it as I was watching Selection Sunday yesterday, my heart literally sank to my chest because I definitely still have PTSD. Doug, you are a player in the arena where we lost our last game as collegiate athletes. And I know that you haven't watched that Baylor game yet. When you saw it pop on the screen yesterday, what were your thoughts?
I was actually in that arena warming up, so I didn't get to see it. But me and Gibbs, we played Gibbs last night, so we were talking about it before the game. And he's like, "Man, I just remembered on the bus ride over here that this is where our career ended." So it's pretty crazy, and I'm just excited, man. It's a really exciting time to be a Creighton fan. I know if you had asked us like 10 years ago, if like we'd be complaining about like a 6 seed, we would have called you crazy. So. I mean, we obviously had the hype before the season. It didn't all go as planned, but here we are. We're a 6 seed, with everything right in front of us. So it should be an exciting time. I know we'll travel well. I know they'll be there loud, and I'm ready for a run.
There's a big like Creighton alumni fan base in Denver, so I'm very much looking forward to, especially on the TV broadcast. Man, let's see. I know he's going to be in the building for sure. I don't know if you guys will have a chance to be up there. Matthew, Doug, any chance that you guys will be up there?
I would like to, but the little guy, 4 month old, makes it a little bit
Dude.
tough.
Doug, I'm assuming no with the NBA schedule, right?
I wish. I'm planning on Houston, brother.
Hell
There we
yeah,
go.
let's go. Absolutely. That would be perfect too. But yeah, we got a decent alumni fan base out in Denver. So like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing how we show up and show out on the broadcast for sure. I wish I could be there, but still got some business to handle out here in Vienna. But I will be staying up no matter how late it is to definitely watch those games. So it'll be a good time. Again, it's tournament time. It's time to, it's the second season. Let's get excited about this. The Jays are gonna obviously like play as well as they can. I have very high hopes for this team. I don't think that they've reached their ceiling yet, which is pretty scary in my opinion. That we were able to get a 6 seed, and we still haven't played what I feel to be is our best basketball. We still got some time to do it now. Matthew, any last words for Jays fans out there?
No, man. I like Doug said, it's a new season. Maybe the regular season ain't going quite as well, but again, my first year at Creighton, we were watching the selection show from the old gym, and we got, I guess we'd probably say we got snubbed. We didn't get an at-large bid after losing, and then my next year we didn't even come close. And then you guys' first year, my junior year, we lost in the Valley tournament, so like those hopes were over. And just think how we knew we were going to be in the NCAA tournament, and it's just a matter of where seeding is. So it's crazy to think how far we've come just in the short time that I've been, out of Creighton and stuff. So it's pretty amazing, and I'm just excited. NCAA tournament's always a fun time of year. Hopefully we can get hot and make a run.
Let's get hot. Let's make a run. Doug, any last word for Jays fans?
No, man, touche with Matt. I think we're excited. It's a great team, well coached, and it's gonna be a fun March. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting basketball all around, obviously with the Jays playing. But I just feel like I said, with this field being so wide open, like all these games are going to be exciting. I mentioned in the open, like the 5-12 line, like that's always one that we always pay attention to because there's always an upset every single year. Like you can kind of bet on it, so to speak, for you bettors out there. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm definitely going to be glued to my TV watching as many games as I possibly can. Definitely going to be watching the boys and seeing how they perform. Excited to see us hopefully exercise our demons, like Matthew said, if we were able to get Baylor in that second round. So we'll see how that goes. We know our producer Josh Boyd and his Indiana Hoosiers are in the tournament too as a 4 seed, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to be trying to pay attention to that too, just to show him a little bit of love. But over here, this is the most biased Creighton-centric podcast in the world. So it's Go Jays all day, every day. I appreciate you guys taking time to be in the J with me virtually once again. Matthew, get back to work. Doug, stay safe and keep hooping, brother. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And as always, Go Jays.